Alright, now we have our brush settings here. So we have show brush and cursor. That one is just deciding whether or not you can see it when you go to click it. Pretty useful for stamping. You have your opacity, where this is the most opaque a stroke can get to. So take a look, that's only going to get to 50%. You have your flow, which is very similar. I'll set my opacity back to 100 and my flow to 50. So that's basically how opaque the first stamp is. Notice how these are pretty much the same. Well, they're exactly the same. However, with flow, it accumulates, so you can get up to 100% opacity. Then you have your brush size, that's obvious. Brush angle, that's whether it's upside down or right side up. I'll set that back. Roundness is how much you're cropping. This is probably more useful for your default circular brush anyway. Hardness, this is how much of a feather you have on there. So, got the edges a little bit feathered there. Spacing. Spacing is, I'll use a textured brush for this. Spacing is the distance between stamps. So I'm going to click and drag here, take a look. If I bring that spacing way down, then I can get a really consistent line. Take a look at the difference. But if I bring my spacing way up, I can get kind of a stamped effect. Let me just clear this before I do it. So that can be useful too. Your brush alpha is exactly the same as flow actually, however it's going to save on a brush-to-brush basis. Color, opacity, and flow, just like they are in Photoshop, those are universal. Those are not stored per each brush. However, your alpha is. So for example, if you want this brush right here, I'm just going to set this down here. If you want this brush to have an alpha of, say, maybe 3, that way when you're scrubbing with it, it's light, and you want this one over here to have an alpha of 100, so it's a hard stamp, you can do that. However, with flow, the problem is it's going to be affecting all the brushes, so alpha is just separate for your convenience. Tint is how much this brush is being affected by the brush color. It's at 100% right now, so it's completely pink. But if I bring that down, it's going to take its original color. There's also tint black and white. It's a little bit less important what they do, but if you use the effects, color correction, tint, just like that, it's basically doing the same thing. So this is kind of handy when you have a white brush, and let's say that you want to tint it to a certain color, but keep the luminance values in there. So I have that here. And I can do a red one too. So play around with these. Tint all is the simplest, but these can still be pretty powerful in the right situations.